The Great Hall of Nexus Prime Station stretched far above the heads of the gathered aliens. Crystal walls caught the light from 3 different suns and threw rainbows across the floor. In the center of the room sat representatives from 12 of the galaxy's most powerful species. They had come together for one reason: to decide what to do about the humans from Earth. Admiral Zexathara stood up from her black stone chair. She was tall, with dark green scales covering her body and sharp teeth that gleamed when she spoke. The Draconian Empire had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years. When she talked, others listened. "We are here to discuss the request from Earth," she said. Her voice carried across the hall without effort. "These humans want to join our Federation. They think they deserve a place among us." A low rumble of laughter came from several seats. The Hive Queen, whose body looked like a giant insect covered in metal armor, clicked her mandibles together. "The humans still use chemical rockets," she said. "My youngest larvae could build better ships." From another section of the hall, the Nexari representative spoke. Half of his body was machine, half flesh. Lights blinked behind his metal eye as he calculated numbers. "According to my analysis, the entire human military could not damage even one of our smallest patrol ships. Their weapons are primitive. Their technology is centuries behind ours." The Etherians floated in their special chairs, their bodies almost see-through like living glass. One of them spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "We have observed their history through their own broadcasts. They fight constantly among themselves. Even now, they cannot unite their own planet properly." More aliens joined in. The rock-like stonebloods talked about how weak human bodies were compared to their own mineral forms. The plant-like Verdani rustled their leaves in disapproval of human violence toward their own environment. Each species found new reasons to mock the distant world called Earth. Admiral Zexathara raised her clawed hand for silence. "The humans sent an ambassador to observe this meeting," she said. "Let her see what we think of her people." On Earth, Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the United Nations Strategic Command Center deep under New York City. She watched the alien meeting through a quantum communication link. The holographic display showed every detail of the Crystal Hall and every word spoken by the alien representatives. Around her sat the leaders of Earth's military and government. General Marcus Webb, head of the Terran Defense Initiative, kept his face calm, but Sarah could see his jaw muscles tighten. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the head of Alien Technology Research, made notes on her tablet but said nothing. President Morrison watched with cold eyes. Back on the station, Admiral Zexathara continued her speech. "Humans have been in space for barely 50 years. We have traveled between stars for millennia. They discovered faster than light travel by accident while trying to build a better communication system. We mastered it while their species was still living in caves." The other aliens laughed again. A representative from the traitor species called the Borthaki stood up. His purple skin was covered in expensive jewelry from a dozen worlds. "I have visited their system," he said. "They trade in crude metals and simple manufactured goods. A single cargo ship from any of our worlds carries more value than their entire planet produces in a year. Their military is even more pathetic," added General Kex from the Krillian warrior caste. His body was built like a living tank with armor plates growing naturally from his skin. "They still use kinetic weapons that fire metal projectiles. My soldiers wear personal shields that could stop their largest artillery shells." Admiral Zexathara's yellow eyes gleamed. She was enjoying this. "The humans think they are special because they survived several wars on their own planet. They do not understand that real war happens between stars, not on the surface of one small world." She gestured toward the communication screen that connected to Earth. "Are you listening, human ambassador? Do you understand how small you are in the galaxy? Your people live on one world orbiting an average star in an unremarkable part of space. We control hundreds of systems. Our fleets could turn your entire planet into glass in minutes." Sarah Chen's face remained steady as she responded. "We hear you, Admiral. We understand your position." "Good," Zexathara said with a cruel smile. "Then let me make our decision clear. The Galactic Federation rejects Earth's application for membership. Humans are not ready to join civilized society. You are too primitive, too violent, and too weak to contribute anything of value. The other alien representatives nodded their agreement. Some looked satisfied, others seemed bored, as if the outcome had never been in doubt. But Admiral Zexathera was not finished. She had one more humiliation to offer. However, the Draconian Empire is generous. We understand that weak species need guidance from their betters. Therefore, we offer Earth the chance to become our protectorate. She paused to let the word sink in. Everyone in the hall knew what it meant. A protectorate was not a partner or ally. It was a fancy word for slave. Under Draconian protection, humans would be allowed to continue existing, the Admiral continued. You would provide resources and labor to support our empire. In return, we would ensure that no other species destroys you. It is more than you deserve, but we are merciful. The silence stretched across space between the alien station and Earth. Every eye in both locations waited for the human response. Sarah Chen stood up slowly. She was small compared to most of the aliens, but her voice was clear and strong. Thank you for your offer, Admiral. Earth declines. The simple words hit the alien gathering like a physical blow. No one had expected the humans to refuse. Species that were offered protectorate status usually accepted gratefully. The alternative was often complete destruction. Admiral Zexthara's smile faded. You refuse our generous offer? Do you not understand what that means? We understand perfectly, Sarah replied. Earth chooses to remain independent. Angry sounds erupted from several alien representatives. The Hive Queen's chittering grew louder. General Keck slammed his armored fist on his chair, but Admiral Zexthara held up her hand for quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was cold as space. Very well, humans. You have chosen your path. But remember this moment when the consequences come. The galaxy is not kind to species that think they are more important than they actually are. The communication link went dead. The holographic display in Earth's command center flickered and disappeared. General Webb was the first to speak. Well, that went about as expected. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her tablet. The threat analysis was correct. They see us as insects beneath their notice. President Morrison leaned back in his chair. How long do we have? Sarah Chen gathered her papers with steady hands. Based on their psychological profiles, the Draconians won't move immediately. They'll want to make an example of us, but they'll take time to plan something spectacular. 6 months, maybe more. Good, said General Webb. He made a note on his own tablet. That should be enough time. Dr. Vasquez smiled for the first time since the meeting began. More than enough, I think. They have no idea what we've been preparing. Outside the command center, Earth continued turning as it had for billions of years. People went to work, children went to school, and life proceeded normally. Most humans had no idea that their species had just been condemned by the most powerful empire in the galaxy. But in hidden facilities around the world and in secret stations throughout the solar system, other humans worked with quiet determination. They had been preparing for this moment since the first alien ship had visited Earth decades ago. Now the real work would begin. The aliens thought they knew everything about humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 6 months passed since the meeting at Nexus Prime. The galaxy continued as it always had, with trade ships moving between stars and the great powers maintaining their territories. The Draconian Empire ruled from their capital world of Draconis, Prime, where Admiral Zexathara sat in her war room planning the punishment of Earth. She studied holographic displays showing the human solar system. Sol was a simple yellow star with 9 planets, nothing special compared to the massive systems controlled by the Draconians. The third planet was where the humans lived, a blue and green world they called Earth. It looked peaceful from space, almost innocent. Status report on the human system, she ordered her intelligence officer. Commander Thex, a smaller Draconian with silver scales, activated his data pad. Long-range sensors show increased activity throughout their system, Admiral. They have established new installations on several moons and asteroids. What kind of installations? Zexathera asked. Mining operations, according to their public broadcasts. They claim to be harvesting resources from asteroids in their outer system. They have also built several new orbital platforms around their gas giants. Admiral Zexathera laughed. Mining operations? How typical of a primitive species. They think gathering a few metals from rocks will help them face us. Commander Thex hesitated. There is one unusual detail, Admiral. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected strange energy patterns coming from the human system. The signatures do not match any known technology. Explain. The energy readings appear to be coming from the space around their star's outer planets. But when our sensors try to focus on the source, the readings disappear. It is as if something is there, then not there. Zexathera dismissed this with a wave of her clawed hand. Sensor ghosts. Their primitive technology is probably interfering. With long-range scans, what else do our spies report? Very little, Admiral. Human security around their new projects has become extremely tight. Even our best intelligence assets cannot get close to their outer system facilities. This was slightly more interesting to the Admiral. They are being secretive about mining operations? Perhaps they have found something valuable in those asteroids. It is possible, Commander Thex agreed. However, economic analysis suggests that even if they discovered pure deposits of the most valuable metals, it would not significantly change their military capabilities. Admiral Zexathera stood and walked to the great window of her command ship. Outside, hundreds of Draconian vessels moved in perfect formation. Each ship was a masterpiece of military engineering, capable of destroying entire cities with a single shot. The smallest escort vessel in her fleet carried more firepower than all of Earth's military combined. Continue monitoring the humans, she ordered. Let them play with their rocks and metals. It will make no difference when we arrive to claim their system. Far away in the Sol system, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in a control room that officially did not exist. The facility was buried deep under Antarctica's ice, far from any civilian populations. Banks of computers hummed around her, processing data from projects scattered throughout the solar system. Report from Jupiter Station, called out one of her technicians. Test run 17 completed successfully. No detection by external sensors. Dr. Vasquez nodded. And the asteroid belt facilities? Operating at full capacity. The manufacturing plants are producing components faster than projected. She walked to a massive holographic display showing the entire solar system. To any outside observer, it would look normal. The sun burned at the center, planets followed their ancient orbits, and a few small human ships moved between them. But Dr. Vasquez saw the hidden truth. Scattered throughout the system were installations that pushed the boundaries of known science. Some were buried inside asteroids, completely invisible from outside. Others existed in pockets of twisted space-time, hidden in dimensions that conventional sensors could not detect. How many of the other teams have reported in? She asked. All of them, replied her assistant, Dr. Kim. The Australian Deep Desert Facility completed their prototype yesterday. The underwater base in the Pacific finished calibration of their primary array. Even the lunar Farside installation is ahead of schedule. Dr. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. The work had taken decades, but humanity had learned to think differently about the universe. While alien species perfected technologies developed millions of years ago, humans approached each problem with fresh eyes. She touched a control panel and the display zoomed in on Earth itself. Hidden beneath the planet's surface were research facilities that would amaze the galaxy's greatest scientists, not because of their size or complexity, but because of the questions they dared to ask. What is the status of Project Looking Glass? She asked. Dr. Kim consulted his tablet. The theoretical framework is complete. Dr. Chen's team in Switzerland believes they can create a stable viewing portal within the next month. And Project Deep Current? More complicated. The team in Nevada is still working on the power requirements, but the mathematics all check out. If we can solve the energy problem, we should be able to reach through dimensional barriers. Dr. Vasquez nodded thoughtfully. Both projects had seemed impossible when they started, but humans had a talent for making the impossible merely difficult. Then, making the difficult routine, her communicator beeped. She activated it to see General Webb's face appear in miniature hologram form. "Elena, we just received word from our intelligence sources. The Draconians are planning something big for us. Admiral Zex Thara has been meeting with her fleet commanders, more frequently." "How long do we have?" she asked. "Best estimate is 18 months, maybe 2 years. They want to make a show of destroying us, so they are taking time to plan something spectacular." Dr. Vasquez felt a cold satisfaction. "That should be more than enough time. Are you certain the projects will be ready?" She looked around at her control room, then at the displays showing hidden installations throughout the solar system. Thousands of humans worked in secret, developing technologies that the galaxy's older species would consider impossible. "General, we have been preparing for this since the first alien ship visited our system 30 years ago. Every piece of alien technology we could trade for, steal, or salvage has been studied and understood. We have taken their science and asked questions they never thought to ask." "Questions like what?" Dr. Vasquez smiled. "Like what happens when you stop thinking of reality as fixed and start treating it as something that can be edited." On Draconis Prime, Admiral Zexathera reviewed battle plans with her senior staff. Holographic displays showed different ways to attack the human system. Some plans called for a quick strike to destroy Earth's military. Others suggested a slower approach that would allow the humans to see their doom approaching. "I favor the gradual destruction approach," said Fleet Commander Gex. "Let them watch our fleet approach for weeks. Let them understand how hopeless their situation is. It will serve as a better example to other species." Admiral Zexathera agreed. "Fear is a useful tool. Other primitive species will think twice about defying us if they see what happened to the humans." "What about their new mining installations?" asked Commander Thex. "Should we target them specifically?" "No need," the Admiral replied. "Once we control their system, we can examine whatever they have built. If it has any value, we will take it. If not, we will destroy it." None of the Draconian officers were concerned about human military capabilities. Their intelligence reports showed that Earth's technology had not significantly advanced since their rejection by the Galactic Federation. The humans still used primitive weapons and slow ships. Their new industrial projects might produce more resources, but resources meant nothing without the technology to use them effectively. As the meeting ended, Admiral Zexathera looked out at her fleet again. Soon, these magnificent ships would teach the galaxy an important lesson about the price of defying Draconian power. Back on Earth, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the halls of the UN Strategic Command Center. She had just finished reading the latest reports from the hidden research facilities. The progress was remarkable, even by human standards. She entered General Webb's office to find him studying star charts with Dr. Vasquez. "How are our preparations proceeding?" Sarah asked. "Better than expected," the general replied. "The new technologies are not just working, they are exceeding all projections." Dr. Vasquez added, "We have moved beyond simply copying alien science. We are creating things that the galaxy has never seen before." Sarah Chen nodded. She had read the theoretical papers, though she understood only a fraction of the mathematics involved. The concepts were staggering in their implications. "Are we certain this will work against the Draconians?" she asked. "As certain as we can be," Dr. Vasquez replied. "But remember, we are not planning to fight them in the traditional sense. We are going to show them something they have never encountered before." General Webb stood up and walked to the window overlooking the command center. Below, technicians monitored communications from across the galaxy. Most of the alien species still thought of humans as primitive and harmless. "Let them keep thinking that," he said quietly. "When the time comes, they will learn that humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology. It was our refusal to accept that anything is impossible." Outside, 2 years had passed since the Galactic Federation rejected Earth's membership request. Admiral Zexathera stood in her private chambers aboard the flagship Eternal Dominance, reading reports that made her scales itch with irritation. "The Borthakai Trade Guild is questioning tribute rates," her aide reported. "3 of our tributary, Species have filed formal complaints about Draconian military presence in their systems, and the Krillian warrior caste is asking for permission to conduct independent raids. Admiral Zexathara's yellow eyes narrowed. All of this started after the human incident at Nexus Prime. These lesser species think defiance is acceptable because they saw the humans refuse our protection. She walked to her command display and studied the galactic map. The Draconian Empire controlled over 300 star systems, but maintaining that control required constant shows of strength. If other species began to think rebellion was possible, the Empire could face challenges on multiple fronts. There is more, Admiral, the aide continued nervously. Our trade ships operating near human space have reported unusual incidents. What kind of incidents? Ships arriving at their destinations, with crews who speak of strange experiences. They report seeing things that should not exist, traveling through regions of space where the stars appeared to be in wrong positions. Admiral Zexathara turned from the display. Explain. Captain Mex of the cargo vessel Stormrunner reported that during a routine jump near the human system, his ship seemed to pass through a region where space itself felt different. His navigation officer claimed the constellations looked wrong, as if they were viewing the galaxy from somewhere else entirely. The Admiral dismissed this with a snort. Space madness. Long jumps between stars can affect weaker minds. Perhaps, Admiral, but 17 different ships have reported similar experiences. All of them were traveling routes that pass within 50 light-years of the human system. This was more troubling. 17 independent reports suggested something beyond simple crew hallucinations. But Admiral Zexathara had more immediate concerns than mysterious space phenomena. Summon my fleet commanders, she ordered. It is time to end this human problem once and for all. 3 hours later, the war room of the Eternal Dominance filled with the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Fleet commanders who had conquered entire species sat around the holographic strategy table. Their combined experience included thousands of successful military campaigns. Admiral Zexathara activated the central display, showing the human solar system in perfect detail. The time has come to resolve the human situation. Their continued defiance encourages rebellion throughout our territory. Fleet Commander Kex leaned forward, his massive frame creaking the reinforced chair. What resistance can they offer? Our intelligence reports show no significant military improvements since their rejection. Minimal resistance, Admiral Zexathara confirmed. But that is not the point. We must make their destruction visible to the entire galaxy. Every species must see what happens to those who defy Draconian authority. She gestured to the display, which now showed the positions of Draconian military assets. I am assembling the largest fleet in our history. 500 ships, including 12 of our newest dreadnoughts. The combined firepower will be capable of sterilizing every planet in the human system within hours. The assembled commanders murmured approval. Such overwhelming force would indeed send a clear message to the galaxy. However, the Admiral continued, we will not strike immediately upon arrival. The fleet will approach slowly, broadcasting our intentions on all frequencies. Let the humans and every other species in the galaxy watch as we demonstrate the futility of resistance. Fleet Commander Gex, whose scarred face showed the results of 100 battles, asked the obvious question. What if they attempt to flee? Where would they go? Admiral Zexathara laughed. They have one system, one planet capable of supporting their species. They cannot evacuate 9 billion humans before we arrive, and even if they tried, no other species would dare accept refugees from a world we have condemned. The planning session continued for hours. Every detail was considered, from formation positions to weapon targeting priorities. The destruction of Earth would be thorough, efficient, and completely visible to the galactic community. As the meeting ended, Admiral Zexathara issued her final orders. Send word throughout the Empire. Every species under our protection will receive live broadcasts of the human system's destruction. Let them see the price of defiance. Within days, the largest military force in galactic history began assembling at the Draconian stronghold of Talon Base. Massive dreadnoughts, each 30 kilometers long, took position alongside smaller but equally deadly cruisers and destroyers. Support vessels carried supplies and ammunition for an extended campaign. though none expected the humans to last long enough to require resupply. News of the fleet assembly spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Every major species received reports about the impending destruction of Earth. Some felt satisfaction that the arrogant humans would finally learn their place. Others worried about what such overwhelming displays of force meant for the galaxy's balance of power and done. The trading station Hub 7, merchants from a dozen species gathered to discuss the situation. The Etherian trader Velthara spoke in her crystalline voice. The Draconians are making an example of the humans, but such displays of power make all of us nervous. A Borthaki merchant, his purple skin gleaming with expensive oils, nodded agreement. The Draconians grow more aggressive each year. Today it is the humans. Tomorrow it might be any of us who displease them. Similar conversations took place across the galaxy. The Draconian fleet assembly was impossible to hide, and its implications worried many species. But none dared speak against the Empire openly. The fate awaiting Earth served as a powerful reminder of the consequences of defiance. On Earth itself, the response to the Draconian threat was remarkably calm. Emergency sessions of the United Nations Security Council lasted only hours, not days. No panic broadcasts filled the communication networks. No frantic evacuation attempts began. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the UN General Assembly, her voice steady as she addressed representatives from every nation on Earth. The Draconian Empire has announced its intention to destroy our world and our species, she said simply. We have approximately 3 weeks before their fleet arrives in our system. Murmurs ran through the assembly, but there was no panic. Humanity had known this moment would come since their rejection by the Galactic Federation. Our response will be coordinated through the Strategic Defense Initiative, Chen continued. All necessary preparations have been made. We are ready. The simplicity of her statement was almost anticlimactic. No dramatic speeches about humanity's will to survive. No desperate calls for last-minute diplomatic solutions. Just quiet confidence that preparations made over the past 2 years would prove sufficient. In the hidden facilities scattered throughout the solar system, those preparations entered their final phase. Dr. Elena Vasquez moved between control stations in the Antarctic base, monitoring readiness reports from installations most of Earth's population did not know existed. Status report from all facilities, she requested. Project Looking Glass is fully operational, reported the technician monitoring the Swiss installation. Dimensional viewing portals are stable and ready for targeting. Project Deep Current shows green across all parameters. Added another voice from the Nevada facility. Power distribution networks are online and synchronized. The asteroid belt manufacturing plants have completed production of all required components, came a third report. Deployment systems are ready for activation. On your command, Dr. Vasquez nodded with satisfaction. The technology humanity had developed over the past decades represented a fundamental breakthrough in understanding reality itself. While other species had perfected the manipulation of matter and energy, humans had learned to manipulate the information that defined existence. General Webb joined her at the main control station. Final confirmation from our monitoring posts. The Draconian fleet has begun moving toward our system. 500 ships, just as our intelligence predicted. Are you ready for this, General? Dr. Vasquez asked. Webb's expression was grim but determined. As ready as anyone can be to change the nature of warfare forever. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy is ready for what we are about to show them. Outside the hidden control rooms, life on Earth continued with surprising normalcy. People went to work, children attended school, and families gathered for evening meals. The approaching Draconian fleet was common knowledge, but there was no panic or despair. Humanity had spent centuries learning to face impossible odds. They had survived world wars, natural disasters, and their own mistakes. Now they faced their greatest test, proving to the galaxy that some species could not be conquered, no matter how powerful their enemies might seem. In 3 weeks, Admiral Zexathara's mighty fleet would arrive expecting to find a primitive world cowering before superior technology. Instead, they would encounter The Draconian fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in perfect military formation. 500 warships arranged themselves in attack patterns that had conquered countless worlds across the galaxy. At the center of the formation, the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominance served as Admiral Zexithera's mobile command center. From her bridge, Admiral Zexithera looked out at the small yellow star ahead. Somewhere around that unremarkable sun lived 9 billion humans, who had dared to reject Draconian authority. Soon they would understand the price of such arrogance. "Begin the broadcast," she ordered her communications officer. Across the galaxy, every major species received the live transmission from the human system. The broadcast showed the overwhelming power of the Draconian fleet arranged against the backdrop of distant stars. No military force in galactic history had ever assembled such devastating firepower in one location. Admiral Zexithera's image appeared on screens throughout known space. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, her scaled features radiating cold satisfaction, "you are witnessing the consequences of defying Draconian authority. The humans of Earth chose rebellion over protection. Now they will serve as an example to all who would question our rule. On trading stations and colony worlds, aliens watched with mixtures of fascination and fear. The Etherians gathered in their crystal halls, their translucent forms flickering with nervous energy. The Borthaki merchants calculated the economic implications of such a display of force. Even the warrior caste Krillians observed with respectful attention to Draconian military doctrine. The fleet began its slow advance toward the inner system. Admiral Zexithera had planned this carefully. The approach would take several hours, giving the humans time to contemplate their fate. It would also ensure that every species in the galaxy had time to observe and understand the lesson being taught. "Scanner report," the Admiral demanded. "The human system appears normal," reported her sensor officer. 9 planets in standard, orbital patterns. No significant military installations detected. Several small industrial platforms around their outer gas giants, but nothing that poses a threat. "What about their fleet?" "Minimal presence. Perhaps 24 small vessels scattered throughout the system. Most appear to be civilian cargo ships or research vessels." Admiral Zexithera allowed herself a satisfied smile. The humans were not even attempting to mount a defense. They had accepted the inevitable. As the Draconian fleet passed the orbit of Neptune, the first impossible thing happened. The destroyer Black Talon, positioned on the outer edge of the formation, simply ceased to exist. One moment, the ship was there, its 3,000 crew members going about their duties. Its communication systems were functioning normally, reporting standard operational status. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space where the destroyer had been, no explosion. No debris, no energy discharge of any kind. The ship and everyone aboard had simply vanished from existence as if they had never been there at all. Admiral Zexithera stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "Sensor malfunction," she said. "Recalibrate and locate the Black Talon." "Admiral," her sensor officer replied, his voice tight with confusion. "There is nothing to locate. The ship is not there." "That is impossible. Ships do not simply disappear. Check for cloaking technology. Check for dimensional rifts. Check for anything that could explain what we saw." The sensor teams worked frantically, but their instruments detected nothing. No energy signatures, no gravitational distortions, no traces of advanced stealth technology. According to every measurement they could make, the Black Talon had never existed. Then it happened again. The cruiser Storm Rider, part of the fleet's southern formation, began to fade. The process was visible to ships nearby, a gradual reduction in the vessel's apparent solidity. The massive warship became translucent, then transparent, then simply not there anymore. Panic began to spread through the Draconian ranks. Communications channels filled with confused reports as ship captains demanded explanations that no one could provide. "All ships halt advance," Admiral Zexithera ordered. "Battle stations, raise all defensive screens." But there was nothing to defend against. Their sensors detected no hostile vessels, no weapon signatures, no source for whatever was destroying their fleet. The enemy, if there was an enemy, operated beyond the reach of their technology. The vanishings accelerated. Ships throughout the formation began disappearing at an increasing rate. Massive dreadnoughts proved no more resistant than the smallest escort vessels. The technological superiority that had made the Draconian Empire dominant for millennia meant nothing against whatever force they faced. Fleet Commander Kex's voice crackled over the communication system from his flagship Iron Thunder. "Admiral, my sensors are detecting some kind of distortion around my ship. The hull plating appears to be losing cohesion at the molecular level." "Retreat to a safe distance," Zexathera ordered, though she had no idea what might constitute safety against such an incomprehensible threat. "I cannot," Kex replied, his voice strangely calm for a warrior facing the unknown. "My engines are not responding. Admiral, I can see through my own hands. I think I am disappearing." The Iron Thunder faded from view like the others, taking with it one of the Draconian Empire's most experienced military commanders and his crew of 8,000. Throughout the galaxy, the species watching the live broadcast struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. The mathematics of the situation made no sense. Matter and energy could be converted from one form to another, but they could not simply cease to exist. Yet that was exactly what appeared to be happening to the most powerful military force in known space. On the Etherian homeworld, the Council of Lights gathered in emergency session. "This violates every principle of physics we understand," stated one member, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated colors. "Matter cannot be deleted from reality." Similar conversations took place across a dozen worlds. Scientists and philosophers struggled to explain the impossible events unfolding in the human system. Aboard the Eternal Dominance, Admiral Zexathera watched her fleet dissolve around her. Ships that had taken decades to build and centuries to perfect vanished in moments. The combined military might of the Draconian Empire was being erased as if it were nothing more than a mistake in some cosmic calculation. "Order all remaining ships to retreat at maximum speed," she commanded. "Emergency jump to hyperspace, any direction away from this system." But distance provided no safety. Ships continued to vanish regardless of their position or heading. The Kaikor, force destroying the Draconian fleet, operated according to rules that transcended normal space and time. The communications officer's face was pale with terror. "Admiral, I am receiving a message from Earth." "Put it through," Zexathera ordered. Main display activated to show Ambassador Sarah Chen, sitting calmly in what appeared to be a simple office. Behind her, the blue curve of Earth was visible through a window. She looked exactly as she had during the meeting at Nexus Prime 2 years earlier. "Admiral Zexathera," Chen said politely. "I regret that circumstances have led to this situation." "What are you doing to my fleet?" the Admiral demanded, her voice cracking with strain. "We are demonstrating a new approach to conflict resolution," Chen replied. "Your ships are not being destroyed, Admiral. They are being edited out of existence. There is a difference. That is impossible. You cannot simply delete matter from reality." Chen's expression remained patient. "You are thinking in terms of conventional physics. Matter and energy are conservations that must be preserved. But information can be deleted, Admiral. And at the most fundamental level, everything in the universe is information." Admiral Zexathera felt her own ship beginning to vibrate strangely. Looking down, she could see through her hands to the deck plating below. The dissolution process had reached the flagship. "You are murdering millions of innocent beings," she said, trying to maintain her dignity as existence itself began to slip away from her. "No one is dying, Admiral," Chen explained. "Death implies that something which existed has ended. What we have done is more precise. We have simply edited the information that defines your fleet's existence. From the universe's perspective, your ships were never here." The bridge of the Eternal Dominance became translucent. Admiral Zexathera could see stars shining through the walls and floor. Her crew members faded like ghosts, their forms becoming less real with each passing second. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely audible as her vocal cords lost coherence. "Because someone needed to demonstrate that the old rules no longer apply," Sarah Chen replied. The galaxy has been static for too long, with the same powers maintaining control through the same methods. Humanity represents something new. We refuse to accept that anything is impossible, including the editing of reality itself. Admiral, Sexthara tried to speak again, but she no longer had the physical substance necessary to form words. Around her, the mighty eternal dominance completed its transition from existence to non-existence. The flagship that had been the terror of 100 worlds simply was not, had never been, could never be. Across the galaxy, the live broadcast continued for several minutes after the last Draconian ship vanished. The transmission showed empty space where a mighty fleet had been, with only the stars providing proof that anything had ever been there. The news of the Draconian fleet's complete disappearance reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. Emergency council sessions convened on dozens of worlds as species that had seemed secure in their positions of power suddenly found themselves facing an entirely new reality. On Nexus Prime, the same crystal hall where Earth's membership application had been rejected now hosted the most important gathering in galactic history. Representatives from every major species sat in stunned silence as they processed the implications of what they had witnessed. The Etherian representative, Velthera, spoke first. Her normally musical voice carried a tremor of fear. We observed the complete erasure of 500 Draconian warships. This should be impossible according to every principle of physics we understand. The Nexari delegate, his cybernetic components flickering with rapid calculations, nodded grimly. My analysis of the recorded data confirms that the ships did not explode, disintegrate, or move to another location. They simply ceased to exist as if they had never been constructed. Across the hall, the Borthaki trade representative shifted, nervously in his chair. The economic implications are staggering. The Draconian Empire's military power was the foundation of galactic stability. Without their fleet, trade routes, territorial boundaries, and treaty obligations become meaningless. But the most profound impact was psychological. For millions of years, the galaxy's species had operated under the assumption that certain rules were absolute. Matter and energy were conserved. Physical laws were universal. Technology progressed along predictable paths. Humanity had shattered all of those assumptions in a single afternoon. The Krillian war chief, General Kextor, slammed his armored fist on his chair. What kind of weapons can erase ships from existence itself? How do we defend against something that operates outside the laws of physics? No one had answers. The greatest military minds in the galaxy found themselves confronting concepts that their training had never prepared them to understand. 3 days after the vanishing, a new transmission arrived from Earth. Ambassador Sarah Chen appeared on screens throughout the reconvened council session, her appearance as calm and professional as always. Honorable representatives, she began. I am addressing you to clarify humanity's position following recent events in our system. The alien delegates listened with the desperate attention of beings whose entire worldview had been overturned. Many of you have questions about the technology demonstrated against the Draconian fleet, Chen continued. I can provide some explanation, though the full technical details would be difficult for non-human minds to comprehend. She paused, perhaps allowing time for the casual insult to register. The species that had once mocked humanity's primitive intelligence now found themselves being told they lacked the mental capacity to understand human science. What you witnessed was the practical application of information theory to physical reality, Chen explained. While other species have focused on manipulating matter and energy, humanity has learned to manipulate the underlying data structures that define existence itself. The Hive Queen's mandibles clicked nervously. You speak of reality as if it were a computer program that can be edited. That is a crude but reasonably accurate analogy, Chen replied. At the quantum level, all matter and energy are expressions of information. Change the information, and you change the physical reality. It describes, delete the information entirely, and the corresponding matter simply ceases to exist. The implications sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. If humans could edit reality like correcting mistakes in a document, then conventional concepts of military power, territorial control, and resource scarcity became meaningless. The Draconian fleet was not destroyed, Chen continued. Destruction implies that something existing was reduced to component parts. What we accomplished was more precise. We identified the information patterns that defined those ships and their crews, then removed that information from the universe's data structure. But that means you committed genocide on a scale never before seen in galactic history, accused the Verdani representative, her photosynthetic leaves rustling with moral outrage. Chen's expression remained unmoved. From our perspective, no. Lives were ended because those lives were edited out of existence retroactively. The crew members of those ships did not die. They simply never existed in the first place. The philosophical implications were staggering. If someone's existence could be retroactively negated, then concepts of life, death, and identity lost all meaning. "What do you want from us?" asked Velthera, her crystalline form flickering with desperate hope that humanity might have reasonable demands. "Want?" Chen appeared genuinely surprised by the question. "We do not want anything from you. Humanity has moved beyond the need for galactic approval or resources." She gestured, and the transmission expanded to show a view of Earth from orbit. But this was not the same planet the galaxy remembered. The surface showed signs of massive technological development. Geometric patterns covered continents, suggesting construction projects on a planetary scale. "Our rejection by the Galactic Federation was actually beneficial," Chen explained. "It forced us to develop independently, to explore possibilities that species bound by conventional thinking never considered. We have transcended the limitations that define your civilizations." "Then why are you speaking with us at all?" demanded General Kextor. "Because," Chen replied, "despite our technological superiority, humanity recognizes that diversity has value. We do not wish to rule the galaxy or impose our will on other species. We prefer a more elegant solution." The transmission changed again, now showing a holographic star map of the known galaxy. Human territory was marked in blue, encompassing only the Sol system. But radiating outward from Earth were lines of influence reaching toward every major species territory. "Humanity will serve as mediator for galactic conflicts," Chen announced. "When disputes arise between species, when wars threaten to destabilize entire sectors, you may call upon us to provide resolution." "And if we refuse your mediation?" asked the Borthaki representative. Chen's smile held no warmth. "Then you will face the same resolution that the Draconian Empire experienced. The choice is yours, but the outcome is predetermined." The message was clear. Humanity offered to manage galactic conflicts through diplomacy backed by the ultimate deterrent. Species could submit to human mediation voluntarily, or they could be edited out of existence entirely. "This is extortion," protested the Etherian delegate. "This is evolution," Chen corrected. "The galaxy has been trapped in cycles of conquest and rebellion for millions of years. The same patterns repeat endlessly because the fundamental power structure never changes. Humanity represents something genuinely new." She stood up, preparing to end the transmission. "You have witnessed what happens when species cling to obsolete concepts of military dominance. We suggest you adapt quickly to the new reality." The Xiao transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council in stunned silence. Outside the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, the greatest powers in known space began the process of completely restructuring their understanding of the universe. Within weeks, applications for Earth's mediation services began arriving at the UN headquarters. The Krillian warrior clans, who had been planning raids against Borthaki trade routes, suddenly requested human arbitration of their territorial disputes. The Etherian and Verdani governments, locked in a century-old conflict over mining rights, asked for Earth's intervention. Each successful mediation reinforced humanity's position as the galaxy's ultimate authority. Human arbitrators proved surprisingly fair in their judgments, but the underlying threat remained clear. Species that accepted human mediation received reasonable settlements. Those that rejected it ceased to exist. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in her Antarctic Control Center, monitoring reports from across the galaxy. The transformation was proceeding faster than anyone had anticipated, Species that had warred for millennia were learning to resolve conflicts through negotiation rather than violence. Status report from the monitoring stations, she requested. Galactic conflict levels have decreased by 73% since the Draconian incident, reported her assistant. Most territorial disputes are being resolved through our mediation services rather than military action. And the research projects? Continuing on schedule. The teams at Jupiter Station have made breakthrough progress on temporal manipulation. The asteroid belt facilities are developing new applications for dimensional engineering. Dr. Vasquez nodded with satisfaction. The demonstration against the Draconians had been necessary, but it was only the beginning. Humanity's exploration of reality's underlying structure had revealed possibilities that would reshape the galaxy in ways no one could yet imagine. General Webb joined her at the observation deck overlooking Earth's transformed surface. Below, them construction projects that would dwarf ancient monuments continued around the clock. Humanity was building a civilization that would serve as the foundation for a new galactic order. Annie Rai